Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Researcher Live episode. We're super thrilled to have you join us as we explore the topic, innovative ways to take charge as a female scientist. Whether you're male or female, today's session will offer valuable insight into creating inclusive environments for all genders in the STEM industry. Before I officially present our expert panelists today, just a couple of quick housekeeping items, and then we'll get right into it. So you're all in listening mode, so you don't have to worry about your background noise whatsoever. We'll have dedicated time to answer all of your questions. You'll see down in the Zoom bar below. If you click on Q&A, you can add all of your questions there. And just know that as soon as we finish the webinar, we'll have enough time to get all of your questions answered. And in case you want to rewatch a specific part or share it with your colleagues afterwards, we'll be sending you the recording after the webinar is done as well. Now, let me introduce our speaker today. Dr. Teresa graduated with a Master of Science in Organic.
Hello.
Hi, Teresa, and was awarded a PhD in Sustainable Catalysis in 2021. She's the creator of Women Transforming Science, an Instagram platform with the aim of supporting and encouraging women to pursue scientific careers. Welcome to the webinar, Teresa.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Very excited to have you here. My name is Julia Heeson. I'm the Senior Growth Marketing Manager at Research Solutions, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. So before I hand it over, for the ones of you that aren't familiar with Research Solutions, the company behind our Researcher Live webinar today, founded in 2006, Research Solutions provides solutions that simplify and streamline how organizations discover, acquire, and manage scientific articles and data. More than 70% of the top pharmaceutical companies, emerging life science firms, and other R&D-driven companies rely on us for one-click access to scientific literature. We would love to know a little bit about our audience today, just to know whom we're speaking with before we actually hand it over to you, Teresa. So let me get that poll pulled up here. Just always good to know. Okay, so you should all see the...
Okay, I can also see the poll, so I'm gonna work.
Awesome. Yeah, so let us know which of the following best represents you. I'm a female working to gain authority and recognition in this male-dominated field. I'm a male striving to promote inclusion and diversity in my workplace. I have felt intimidated by this male-dominated industry, or if it's something completely different, feel free to use the chat function and just type in there whatever you feel represents you the best.
I can also see the chat, so.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to knowing a bit more about the audience, so we'll see.
I'm excited and very curious to see what the majority fills out. What would you fill out, Teresa, if you had the option to vote right here, right now?
I was trying to click the female trying to gain authority, but presenters cannot vote, so I was trying to click, and then I can't do it. So
too bad. Okay, we've got everyone respond. So let me end the poll and share the results here with everyone.
Okay, let's see. I was quite quick.
The
one I'm 70. I'm a male striving to promote. So 27% male. I felt intimidated, 9%. So most of the people are trying to gain authority and recognition. So I guess, I hope I can give my input with this presentation and help people who are, out there trying to, speak with confidence and feel like they can can make their own voice into the workplace. So I'm happy.
Amazing. Well, perfect. Thanks everyone for adding your vote in here. And now with that being said, Teresa, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks for having me today. First slide, please. Hi, everyone. So before starting this webinar today, I wanted to give a bit of introduction about myself. Please let me know if you hear me okay, if there is any, problem with the sound. So just type in the chat. I can see all your messages. So I'm Teresa, and as Julia mentioned previously, I have a PhD in organic chemistry, but before getting to my PhD, I was an undergrad, and I started my education in Italy, where I studied chemistry at the University of Rome. And when I started, I was so naive. I was so, I didn't have any confidence in myself. I didn't even think I could start a program in chemistry. And after 3 years, I ended up graduating among the top 5% of my academic year. Then after that, that was back in 2012, so quite a few years back. Then this is a bit of how the Italian educational system works. We have undergrad for 3 years. Then I started a master in chemistry, which was 2 years. And in 2 years, we have 1 year of exams and 1 year of, scientific training, where I actually did a bit of research in the lab. So, this is basically having a master degree is kind of compulsory. I couldn't start a PhD without the master in chemistry, which is a bit different from, I guess, what USA audience or USA students are used to. But in Italy, this is the way it works legally. So I had to do a master in chemistry with 1 year of research training before I could start a PhD. So basically, after my master in chemistry, I decided to take 1 year out because I wasn't sure what to do. I wasn't sure if I wanted to start a PhD or starting, in industry straight away. So I took a gap year, and in that moment, I decided I do want to do a PhD, but I don't want to do a PhD in Italy. So I applied for positions in Europe, and I ended up getting a PhD scholarship from the University of Nottingham, and it was a European grant. So it was it was a very interesting PhD program because it was also in collaboration with industry. So, and because it was part of the money came from the European Union, the UK had to hire students from the European Union. So this is how I managed to get into the PhD. And also, I guess the most important part of getting the PhD was the fact that I had research experience. So that made me eligible for a PhD program. And in 2021, I graduated with my PhD in chemistry. Next slide, please. So after my PhD, I, got my first industry job and as a research scientist. So I managed to sell my skills, my lab skills as a research scientist in industry, and I worked in that position for 2 years. I was quite strange because I started my job in March 2020, and after 2 weeks, COVID started. So I was quite lucky because even if it was a month later, the whole world was, shut down. I was quite lucky back at the time to get my job in January 2020, 1 month later, and the world was totally different. So I spent the whole COVID pandemic working in the lab, and after that, as research. As a career progression, I moved to a different job as a senior research scientist, always working in the lab, so pretty much similar job I had senior position, so I was starting getting more responsibility. And since January, I decided to take my leaves from the lab, and I'm working full time as a freelance writer, and also manage Women Transforming Science, which is a platform that empowers and uplifts women in science. And I think I want to talk a bit more about, I will talk more about this in the next slides. So basically, I think I've already mentioned this. Most of the time when, I was doing science communication on social media, or was talking about myself as a PhD student, many people were asking me, oh, how did you manage to get the PhD? And basically doing a PhD is mainly a lab job. So you end up working in the lab on a full-time basis. My PhD was in chemistry, so I was working in a chemistry lab, but this is similar for everyone: biology, pharmacy, or even in the engineering school, many people have to spend most of the time working in the lab. So having that research experience that I gained during my master was basically key, because I already kind of demonstrated that I could do that job. So if as a female in science, you starting your degree and you think of doing a PhD in the future, my recommendation is to get some research experience. So maybe in the summer, it can be paid or unpaid. I did my internship was unpaid, so I volunteered my time in the lab, but that was important for me. First of all, to get my degree, but also to get the research experience that I could sell during my PhD application. So, but even if you don't want to do a PhD, I think this is also important if you want to start a lab-based job after master or bachelor in science, to work in a lab and you have some research experience. I think it puts your CV a lot higher with respect to all the other applicants. So the first recommendation I give to all women in science is to get some research experience if you want to do this job. So next slide, please. So doing my PhD, basically, I think that was something that was recommended by the university and I took on board. So what the recommendation of the university was, at the end of the day, when you get your PhD in chemistry or in biochemistry, in pharmacy, in biology, just bear in mind that you will have to look for jobs, and all people applying for just those jobs have PhD like you. So what can you do to make your CV different from all the other people? And that is when I started doing science communication. So by that point, I think it was doing second, third year of my PhD, I knew how to work in the lab. I knew how to do research. I knew, all the, I had all the skills to do chemistry. So what I wanted to do was to improve my communication skills and, diversify my CV in this sense. So I started doing lots of science communication, and I had my blog. I was doing science communication on Instagram, and also I started organizing some scientific festivals. I don't know the audience, where is the demographic, but if you're in Europe, you know that Pint of Science is a big science festival that happens every year at the end of May. And, academics go to the pub and talk about their own research. And I've organized that festival in 2018 in Nottingham. So basically, what I gained from that experience was to, refine my soft skills. especially communication. And that is what also helped me landing the job, because when I was applying for jobs outside academia, I never wanted to continue with postdoc or becoming a professor. I've always wanted to work in industry. And that anytime I was applying for jobs, even if I didn't get the job, everyone was very surprised and was very, amazed by the fact that, oh, you're a scientist, but you also have these skills of communicating, engaging with people, which is very important when you transition from academia to industry, because it's still research, but the way you go about research is a bit different, because you have to engage, you have to communicate a lot more, you have to present your data a lot more, and all these communication skills made my CV a lot stronger than the CV of other people. I guess. So I've also mentioned about the social media, and I think if I could go back in time, I would do the social media again. I think that experience it was very important for me, not only to gain the communication skills, to all these transferable skills that I could sell in my CV. It was most importantly for me, because at the moment where I started doing science communication, it's like a bit like peer reviewing. Everyone is out there following you, looking at you. Oh, you say this is incorrect. Or you've explained this scientific this chemistry topic is not quite correct. And that was for me the moment where I had to say, you know what, I'm knowledgeable in chemistry. I've been doing research for so many years, and I know what I'm talking about. And it was very important for me to gain confidence, which is something that sometimes I was lacking. And, women sometimes do struggle with standing up for themselves, and the fact that I had to stand up in front of an audience, of so many people following me, helped me, be confident and, gain confidence. And even if people were judging me at that point, I didn't care anymore. I was brave enough to put my knowledge out there. Many people are so scared they don't do it. So I thought of myself a bit more highly than people have made me. So, and I think this is a good exercise for women. Even outside the workplace or outside research. You always get these questions. Oh, are you getting kids when you get married? Or if you work in science, now you're pregnant. This is the end of your career. This is like the kind of opinions that women have to face, and they put us off. You always say, oh, am I doing the right things? Am I doing is this am I good enough? And the answer is that if you listen to people, you're never gonna be good enough. So the only opinion that matters is the opinion you have of yourself. And this is when at the end of my PhD, like I said, I use social media, and I've learned all this from social media: to be confident, to have enough self-validation, enough internal validation. This is what I want to communicate to young girls out there, that the only opinion that matters is their opinion. And people have, they will judge you anyway. Whatever you do, they're gonna judge you. And whatever you want to do with this opinion is your own business. You can you can listen to what they have to say. You can just say, I accept your point, it's just not for me. And what I every like any with every Instagram post, I was trying to convey this idea that validation has to come from the inside, not from the outside. And women, I believe that women have to be confident enough to take their own decisions and to, be brave enough to say, this is what I want to do, and it's my opinion, it's my voice, it's what I believe, and it's important to me. And whatever people think is their own business. So that is what I do. I think it's been a journey of growing and gaining confidence. So I wasn't like this when I started my PhD or during my master. I was, what people say, what people think about me, and now this is what I do with the opinion of stranger. It's just I don't care. I put it into the bin. So again, for women, sometimes, especially like on social media, this is it's I guess it's exaggerated, and also in real life you see people and they are successful, and people, a lot of time people, like even with me, they say, oh, you're so successful, you're so lucky. And I say, luck doesn't exist, and I've worked hard to achieve everything I have. And no one, you don't expect people to talk about the failures. Like, they only share their own trophies and their own achievement. So I want women especially, and everyone who is listening, to be mindful that what they see is just the tip of the iceberg. Whatever they don't see is just the hard work beneath that, no one talks about. Because talking about failure, talking about, the ugliness of life is we're not used to. Like, no one has taught us to say, I fail. I'm not good at doing this. And so whatever you see out there, just take it with a bit of, with a grain of salt, and just acknowledge that anytime you see something that is successful, there is a lot of hard work beneath. And this is again for women especially, like no one has taught me this. I had to learn on my own, and I had to learn how to speak up for myself. And I know this is a bit controversial because, women have to, they don't have to, let me say this, it's a bit controversial because there are different opinions. There is a part where people don't have to have assumption. We have to work in workplace where we don't have to deal with many things. But at the same time, I think it's also important to pick up when you don't like something, or people don't read minds. If there's something that you don't like, or you want to say no, just say. I think no one has taught me how to say no. No one has taught me how to say, I'm not comfortable in this situation. And then I had to learn for myself. And it helped me a lot in my career and my PhD, to start asking all these questions, to say, can you please help me? I don't like when you ask me this. Or can I have some readjustments? Like, my kids have to go to school. I can't be here at 8 o'clock in the morning. Can I come 8:30 in the morning? I think, it's just these little things that, for me, it's really what is empowering women. When we start speaking our own voice and start, asking for the things that they should be there, but sometimes they're not, because science is still a male-dominated world. So we can make it be more comfortable for ourselves. And I think even during, in job interviews, I had to stand up for myself. And anytime, they were asking question, like, do you have question for us? And I was asking very hard questions. So what is the policy in this workplace for maternity leaves? Is there any, system in place to report harassment and bullying? And I was asking the question because a workplace, you spend there most of your time, every day, all day, every day. And it's important that you feel comfortable. And that workplace is a workplace that is tolerant and welcoming for women and, other minorities. So if you're there, looking for jobs, or, you're finishing your degree and you don't know if that workplace is good for you, you just start asking this question. And if, they don't have the answer, then, that there's not much else. You already have the answer. If there's a workplace where they don't have maternity leaves, where there is no way you can report harassment, in my opinion, that workplace is not a good workplace for you. And you shouldn't accept that offer of employment. So, this is how I start standing up for myself. And I started finding the situation that are good for women, and on places where I have to readjust and I will never be happy. Next slide, please. So this is just Julie asked me what men can do to support women. I think I think there are very simple things that men can do to help women, and just acknowledge that science is not a traditional job for a woman. Like when you think of a scientist in the past, if you open a science book, every name you read is of a white male from an English-speaking country. So there is no representation for women in science. And I think this is important to acknowledge, that there is no, that there's this stereotypical view of what a scientist is supposed to be. So, there's more women now on social media, or women, in general in science. So this idea, stereotypical idea, is changing, but, the stereotypes and the bias is still there. So, and because women, sometimes we don't speak up for ourselves. You can ask them questions, you can ask to female work colleagues, do you have anything to say? Do you want to add your opinion? Just acknowledge their work, speak for them, give them visibility, and encourage other people to acknowledge women, to ask their contribution, ask them to participate in meetings, research proposals. You can make space for your female work colleague, and you can use metrics to measure gender differences. How many women get hired every year with respect to men? What is the gender pay gap? Are men or women, are men facilitated in the promotion process? How many women you see in the management, for example? This is all good, visibility metric to measure our women, it's this workplace suitable for women, or you have this bias where men are always have it easier than women. And what I always encourage is to look for policies around diversity and inclusion, how bullies or bullying or harassment is treated. And I think this is also important to create a more inclusive and friendly workplace for everyone. So I think next slide is the last one. So probably Julia, you want to say something?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Teresa. We'll open up the Q&A. I already saw a couple of questions come in. If you haven't added yours yet and you want to, feel free to add it in the live chat or in the Q&A section. But before we actually come into the Q&A, For the ones of you that aren't customers yet, I mentioned the company behind Research for Life, Research Solutions. If you're looking to access journal articles and book chapters quickly and cost effectively, I'd like to encourage you to go ahead and request a free trial with Research Solutions Article Galaxy. You will learn how you can get up to 28% off of your article spend and 86% of articles delivered within seconds. I'll add the link in the chat as we speak, so feel free to head over there. And yeah, let's open up for questions. So starting with the first one I see coming in here. How did the idea come up to start sharing your advice on social media, Teresa?
It started because I was doing my PhD, and it started differently. Really. I was doing my PhD, and I was the only woman in my lab, and I was the only woman in my lab for about 2 years. And I felt a bit isolated. So I was just back at the time, I think it was 2017, I saw some female, work colleagues posting on social media, and I started. And this is how, I started with the science communication, and then with the women in science. And it was a way for me to find, female work colleagues, because no one was there around me. And so to get out a bit from the isolation of my PhD, I started all these women in science on Instagram.
Awesome. The next question is, are there any resources available to inspire and support female scientists in their career paths?
I think I don't know if there are specific resources. There are many communities of now, especially on social media, or even communities of women to support other women in science, especially. I think on social media it's easier because you type women in science and you find, but you can say women in science in your school or in your region, or in your city. There's I don't know specifically from the USA, because I'm not, in that area. But for example, in Europe, we have Soapbox. So it's a community of women that they go and speak about their own research in the public, just to outside give visibility to women in science. So Soapbox is a good initiative that I'm aware of.
Awesome. And I think this is like I was about to ask you anyways, but the perfect moment to actually shout out where people can find you and your Instagram profile, for example, as you mentioned, if they'd like to connect with you further. So I see you've added it right here, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's there. You have my website, and also mostly on my LinkedIn, and there's also Women Transforming Science on Instagram.
So I'll go ahead and connect with Teresa to stay connected with other female scientists. And I just we do have one more question, but I also saw more of a comment come in, which says, more than a question, it's a personal thought. Having kids is not the end of your career. They can be a part of it as long as you're a part of a team that is inclusive and understands the situation of mothers. Beautiful.
No, I mean, I think probably what I said, it was misunderstood. I said that it's more of one of the comments that you hear, that put women off. It's one of the many, misogynistic comments. So it's just, speaking again about the stereotypical view of women in science, and why we need, more representation and policies in place to, welcome everyone, especially when they work to facilitate, the work of women, and acknowledge that women have challenges that men don't have.
Right on. So from what I see, this is one last question from the audience today. The question is, how can women use their own experience to become role models for others looking to pursue a career in science?
I think science communication is a good way, because sometimes there are lots of initiatives, where people can go, for example, in primary school, or, I don't know specifically for the USA, but secondary school, or, and talk kids about science. So, you give this kind of representation early on. The museum, for example, they can have initiatives. So, it's just this exposure to have women, in science. And what you can do as well is to, join this initiative. There's, for example, Skype a Scientist. It was popular back at the time. So there are lots of initiatives out there to give representation. And I understand that, so it's not for everyone, but you can also, do locally in your own communities. So.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your questions. Very interesting questions. And thank you, Teresa, for sharing your personal experience and, supporting one another here as women in the scientific industries, and also maybe opening the eyes a little bit of the men in the STEM industry that want to support women further. Thank you so much.